Oh, hello. Just a sound check and a video check there. How we sound, Brian?
Hi, Bear. Breaker 19. This is Rubber Duck.
That notification.
Okay, looking good, sounding good, huh? Well, that's wonderful. Oh, well. Yeah. Hey, Dave. We survived another weekend. No quad wrecks. Uh, uh, liven things up. I redid that turn and to what? H.R. Uni? We
Will
have
we
a
have a
place.
place campus too?
I'm not sure. We got
Hardwood.
those two claims up near here that one reason we wanted to claim, have something so that we would actually have some place, um, so that when people wanted to come by or this, that we'd actually have some place we could do something. So that's kind of the idea. It's really quite accessible. uh, oh, 3 miles, I think, maybe miles, but it's only about 3 miles from paved highway on maintained road, so it wouldn't be a problem at all. Uh, the Montana Bee Ridge, on the other hand, is about oh, more than 10 miles on dirt road, but as I
Yeah, I believe
recall.
so.
Yeah. Know anything about placing a claim on national forest? Actually, we do. Um, if it's national forest land, Brian, first thing you have to do is make sure it's not withdrawn from mineral entry. There's a variety of reasons they could have done so, but it has to be open to mineral entry, number one. Okay. Then you have to comply with the laws of the state that you are in. Um, for example, in Arizona, a corner monument can be a 2 by 2 inch post, whereas in Montana it has to be a 4 by 4 inch post. That will vary by state, and you'll have to ascertain that. Um, there's generally nothing real different in terms of placing a claim on national forest than there is um, compared to BLM land. Getting to utilize it may be a different story. Different organizations, different philosophies, different regulations. But in terms of actually staking, what they call locating a claim, shouldn't be a big problem. Or they say, yes, everything will be the same. I say, whether it's BLM Forest Service, the actual monumenting, the size, everything. Even when you file the claim, once you've made the claim, and you're going to file it, Cockatoo Birdman, huh? Glad to see you don't have any new scars. Yeah, well, uh, as so am I. But yeah, so the paperwork, the monuments, all this stuff are pretty much the same. And even then, you file the uh, recorded documents after you've recorded them. You file a copy or the originals with the BLM. Hey, John.
Hi, Dave.
And so you don't file it with the Forest Service per se. You file it with BLM. They keep track of all the records. We actually just went through this. I'm pretty sure the ones we filed were on Forest Service land. almost certain.
Yeah, I believe
I'm pretty sure they were. Didn't really look because it doesn't really matter.
the fee is.
But who?
Are we getting video and audio? Are you guys hearing all this shit?
Everyone seems to
And
be.
hello, cockatoo bird man. Hi, Dave. Dave Aaron.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah, everyone's been responding. You know, like Cockatoo Birdman says, glad to see you don't have any new scars. So, all that is basically the same whether it's Forest Service, A Muscle Up, or BLM. We just found out for sure that the filing fee at BLM, you got $274 for a new claim.
Hi, Kodak. Hi, Dave. Yeah.
200 is the annual claim holding fee. 74 are the initial fees. There's actually two of them, and so thank you, Dave. So that's what it is. I just talked to BLM literally Friday as we were driving out.
And it should be noted that you have to pay up again for the year, what, by the end of September?
1st of September.
So if you can hold off on filing claims until September 1st, then you won't have to pay twice within a few months the way we are.
Yeah. SA. So that's one of those things. If you're not terribly worried about someone's taking it, just, you can go ahead and wait and save some money there. Anyhow.
Wait until like September 2nd.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically our deal there. And it's, you have to check in the state you're in to see filing a claim on federal land in the state of fill in the blank. And you should be able to get the rules correct. As say, for example, in Arizona, I don't believe the tree 8 inches in diameter blazed on 4 sides was a legitimate monument. Pile of rocks 4 feet high was, or say over there you needed a 2x2 post. Here you got to have a 4x4 post. At least
no tree things in Arizona because no trees in Arizona.
Yeah, there's very few trees.
Arizona is like treeless.
Yeah, and the ones they have, they want to keep slicing and dicing. As we were heading out last Friday, we got a couple miles off the paved road and tooling along. Phone rang. It was BLM. Nice lady there. We had a chat and talked about some stuff. They're having their fun with the claim vendors, I guess you would call them. We use T-posts in Colorado. Wow, that's nice. But anyhow, and so I parked and we chatted, etc. Meanwhile, a very large thunderstorm was approaching us from the west. And after we took off there, we got a couple miles and it was pounding rain and hail and the road got soaked. Right now, Kodak, the high resolution LiDAR in Montana was not available last time we checked. Okay, they're working. But in South Dakota, when we were over there with Gold Pan Dan, he could access it on his smartass phone while we were out in the field, and it showed little dog holes and stuff. It was pretty high resolution stuff. But it's definitely a good idea. Last we checked, they didn't have it here in Montana. It wouldn't hurt for me to double check the LiDAR yet. But anyhow, so the road, which is generally a pretty good road, it was so slippery, not mud on it and everything, that I was having fun between the fact it was slippery and the fact that sometime in the last 6 months or so, somebody went through there with something relatively heavy when it was all muddy and made some serious ruts. It was kind of fun. We were bebopping along, sliding back and forth, and being dragged into the ruts with the trailer behind us and stuff. Finally, it was so hard to control, I just put it in four-wheel drive and said the hell with it. And even then, it wasn't real easy, but it wasn't real hard to deal with. Then we got out, set up camp, and went back to the hairpin of doom, and I rearranged that. It seemed to work pretty good. Okay, coming down on that now. You're still going to slide your rear axle. There's not much you can do because it's a straight axle and you're making a 45-degree turn, not 45 this way, but 45 back the way you came in like 10 feet. So with a straight axle, there's no differential. So you're going to have at least one rear tire sliding. And as steep as it is and everything else, generally when you put some brakes on the rear, it just slid, but it slid beautifully around the turn. Nice, it just hung in the groove beautifully. And so that part's pretty good. Then we went further up, and there's one spot where to get from this spot to that spot up there, I don't know, maybe 30 feet along the ground, but it's steep enough, and it was all bedrock. So I was doing some road building and stuff up above and moving the dirt down to top coat the bedrock to get a smooth surface. And in fact, I did it. The problem being that was the next day. Hey, Jean-Francois.
Hi, Jean-Francois.
The next day, when we finally got it all done, it had all dried out to the point where I couldn't pack it. So the material there, it was not traversable with a two-wheel drive. Just not enough traction. I go up, lose traction, then, right back down on the brakes, sliding on the way down. Eva, she was really Johnny on the spot there. There's a little tree there, wrapped a rope around it, had a carabiner on the end, and she was standing just off of the path and with the carabiner. So as I'm sliding back, if I'm starting to slide over to the edge, I would have yelled out and told her to snap it. And I think there was one time early on that day where we did, but anyhow, as I was coming by, I'd see her with her hand and that carabiner literally 2 inches above the rack on the quad, ready to snap it up if needed. She was really focused, Johnny on the spot there. So.
Memory.
So, and I was wearing a helmet.
Today's burning question on X: picture of a 1970s living room asked what. So I wrote a comprehensive list of all the things that we think, and everyone is complimenting me.
Okay. But anyhow, so at that point, it's like, well, we're not going to get up any higher under these conditions, this quad at this time. So we just turned it around. Even turning around, one of the reasons I would have really liked to get up there was room enough to turn around easily. Not yet. Muscle up. Hey, Lars, how's it going? And so at that other spot, I mean, right there at that turnaround, same tree, but I kind of hook it back up, slope a little bit. Again, hook on the carabiner to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere, and then literally, manually bring the front end of the quad around, it was pointing the other direction, and then get it on a nice, relatively flat spot on the path, park it there. Then we went hiking and checking things out, etc. And we went back to dog hole 2, and I did some more cleaning up and stuff.
I don't use Grok anymore, Jean-Francois. It's delusional, even more so than most AI.
So anyhow, I went and get up there and cleaned everything out, the brush and smooth things, and cleaned off the slopes. And I could see the bedrock and stuff in dog hole 2, and took some samples. Visually, they look pretty good. The hand stacked ore pile there from the past, it assayed pretty good since before. But when I went out there and I crushed all the samples we took this weekend and panned it out, and really didn't see anything of any excitement whatsoever. There's the possibility that there's some samples that had pretty good electrum, like half ounce. But I can't tell until we get some fire assay. There's 4 samples that I want to fire assay. One of them is from EVA 1 main vein there.
Did you also pan the?
Yeah, I've panned everything. Yep. The yellow breccia, one of the 2, I'm not sure, I don't recall exactly which. I think it was EVA 3. Again, had something that looked to be a substantial amount of electrum in it. Can't tell.
Yeah, exactly, Jean-Francois. That's the way they all are.
You mean like a guilty suspect?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
People are constantly telling Grok it's lying.
I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to lie. Yeah. But anyhow, so I went and from there went over the ridge on the other side, and Eva stayed up kind of towards the top of the ridge, while I went around and back down to try and find what I believe to be the primary fault line that makes that saddle there. And I visually identified something that looked probable, and I took some samples. There was nothing there that looked real exciting to me, and nothing panned real exciting. A little further down the ridge, or north on the ridge there, maybe 100 feet, there's another saddle, and it's got a substantial gully on the side of the ridge there. So there's a higher probability there's a significant fault line there, but that would have taken a lot more work. And then we hiked all the samples back to the temporary staging area where the quad was at, got all the tools packed up, headed back to camp, and ate dinner and such. And that day, the first day wasn't too bad because it was relatively cold. Second day, oh man, sunny and hot, no breeze till mid-afternoon there. So I was kind of bushed. And then Sunday morning we got up, and there was I was looking at the satellite where I've, uh, Montana Bee area there. And Eva had noticed something in the next valley over. There was a series of relative bare patches, and they were consistent with what I have seen before as dumps. You know, they can look just like that on a satellite. So there was a whole series of them in a line. Line about a half a mile long, about a dozen patches. So I thought, well, let's just cruise on over there and take a peek too and see what we can see.
It was very strange.
So we did. And it appears to me like there's a stratum there that's a fairly weakly bonded shale. And it's just crumbling. And it's apparently not very nutritious. It doesn't hold water well. So it's almost like sand. You know, we're like, I mean, your average decomposing bedrock would be better than this stuff for vegetation. Yeah. So I took a sample anyway, because why not? Took a couple GPS coordinates of a couple different spots just to make sure when we came back and plotted them on Google Earth that we were seeing what we thought we were seeing and weren't confused. And yeah, that's what it was. It was this weird soil being generated by decomposing bedrock.
No, it's just so funny
What
because
was that?
I think that was the blowing up.
Take a look here.
Yeah, it was so weird because they look like dark brown sand dunes. I mean, for all the world, like sand dunes. Interesting. But anyway. So, gold and silver are both on track to do some amazing things going forward here. But thanks to, shall we just call them regional geopolitical conflicts happening where there's a whole lot of oil, I don't know what the surge in oil prices is going to do to the general inflation outlook and the general money outlook here. That said, I'm glad to see silver where it is sitting, and I'm glad to see gold where it is sitting. Definitely. And if you don't hold it, you don't know. You look out the front door.
No,
I think that might have been the thing. I think it might have been the porch door slammed shut. That's all I can. Okay. But anyway, yeah, this is a good time with the surge. With certain items are going to be surging in price, like oil is surging right now because of random geopolitical conflict, which could get even more interesting with what's going on at the G7 right now. All kinds of weird stuff's going on. So this is definitely a good time to buy gold and silver. It is also a good time to look at buying those items that are energy intensive to make, but will last a long time. Certain crops are more energy intensive than others, but basically, this is a time to look at getting a handle on your long-term durable commodity, making sure your car maintenance is up to date, making sure that if you do decide to buy an appliance, you buy one that's heavy and it's going to last. Because a lot of companies, in response to various political pressures domestically and internationally, are going to be trying to establish a new normal for prices. So things are going to get a little bit weird. Now, we picked up some great silver, so I'm happy. I'm hoping we can pick up some more great silver next week because that will make me even happier. We're also filing those darn mining claims, even though we're going to have to pay the $200 again in 2 months. This is why, when you can avoid it, it's a good idea to hold off. If we hadn't already staked them and we weren't worried that they might disappear, we wouldn't be filing them until September 2nd. They're so easy to get to, they very well might disappear. The other thing is, this past week, I ran into a couple of gold mining claims being sold in our general area. They both used almost exactly the same language. They both were tied to a phone number in Colorado. They both are selling for almost exactly the same price. And so far, I don't know whether they're actually legitimate claims or not. So again, with metals prices surging, we are going to hammer. Do not willy-nilly buy gold mining claims. I personally, the goddess, would never buy a claim that was not on patented land. And if I bought one that was a patented mining claim, I would be buying it based on the real estate value because I wouldn't trust that there's actually anything there otherwise. Having seen some of the claims that got patented in this area back during the Great Trade, I don't necessarily trust patent claims to be a good value. Because seriously, I mean, we're sitting here looking at piles of patented mining claims in a specific area that we've been in. And the things that they were calling discovery shafts, there was nothing there. Okay. There's no records that anything major ever there's just
there was divots.
Yeah, maybe possibly just because somebody kicked a rock out of the way. The thing is, just because a claim is patented doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mother lode of some sort. Because at least here, there was a heyday of patenting claims where people were blanket staking and blanket patenting entire areas. And it was a really, literally, a Wild West environment. There's not a lot of records available. A lot of these claims don't have any work on them. It looks like, in a couple of cases, people were just patenting the top of a hill to take advantage of that apex that exists. So that if something turned up, they would own everything underneath them. There's a lot of that too. So don't ever go buying an unpatented claim. This yo-yo, whoever he is, charging $24,000 for basically buying the same kind of claim that we just staked and that we're just now paying $274 to get in our name. It's not even your land. All you're buying is somebody else's half a day out there in the field putting up 4 stakes, if they even do that. Okay?
Oh, yeah,
and
faith.
The language used, as I said, was absolutely the same on both ads, even though both ads are what? Probably 60 miles apart there? Probably 60, 70 miles apart. And the thing is, some poor sap is probably going to think that they're actually buying something of value when they're not. Don't fall for the ads. You really need to step up due diligence right now. If you're looking at it, you're better off finding a place to stake on your own, you know? Jean-Francois, I wouldn't necessarily say gold is too high at all, as a matter of fact. And yeah, Brian, if it's patented land, and patents overlap, etc., claims with the lowest number is the one that takes precedence. But we also have a lot of overstaking around here. We've had a lot of scammers, especially from Colorado. I'll tell you, seeing a Colorado phone number, yeah, to me, a Colorado phone number is an automatic, yes, and Riverside. Seeing a Colorado phone number is an automatic red flag for me. I'm going to dig deeper into both of those ads and the claims involved in them to find out A, whether they were legitimately staked at all. We've seen plenty of paper staking around here. B, whether they're overstaking something that already belongs to somebody else. And, you know, and to try to figure it out. Because when we were talking to the yo-yos over at the Bureau of Land Management, apparently, all of us miners pretty much on our own out here in the wild, wild west. The BLM does nothing, okay? They're charging us $274 for the privilege of making an entry in a computer somewhere. They don't check whether that entry overstakes somebody else's claim. There's no flags in the computer that tell them, hey, this thing may not be legit. You know, nothing like that. All they are charging us for is the privilege of listing that thing in their computer. They won't come into court. They won't give you any information. They don't do a goddamn thing for their money. Which should not surprise anybody. You know? It really should not surprise anybody. But the thing is, it would not surprise me at all if we start seeing a whole lot more of these ads. And it is our job as part of a mining community to police our neighborhood. You see weird stuff happening in your area, make a ruckus. The only way we were able to get the last group of scammers run out of town on a rail was because a whole lot of us were calling BLM and complaining when they started blanket staking everybody. You know? That's the only way we were able to get rid of the last group of scammers, is because the mining community fought back and said, we have frauds in town that are doing this shit. You know? Other than that, we would have been, we would have been stuck with all these scammers. So I'm going to be digging more into that mess. But meanwhile, keep your eyes open. Make sure if you decide you're going to stake some claims this year and you think you can wait until September 2nd, file your paperwork. Wait until September 2nd, so you're only paying the $270 once a year instead of paying $274 now and $200 in what we're doing. Yep, exactly, Shane. This stuff happens. And we've got people, like I said, I mean, these ads are on Craigslist. And I just know that some poor sucker is going to jump on those ads. I'm hoping that they're not fake. I'm hoping that the guy isn't a scammer. But I frankly doubt it. Because we've had too many scammers around here of late. So, if you can wait to stake, stake. If you have not done your claims maintenance yet, get out there and check your stakes and your corners and your monuments, because heaven knows ours are all screwed up here. We had to redo a whole bunch of stuff. And continue to buy gold and silver, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
And when it comes to this overstaking and stuff, one reason that I wanted to get it done was because, according to the gentleman over at the Forest Service, he said they're getting lots and lots of inquiries and such. So there's going to be a lot of claims going up around here. That seems to be the case. Brings up another point. If you're ever out in the field and you run into someone who disputes whether or not that claim is yours or theirs or whatever, remember, it's the job of the sheriff to deal with these people. If you got someone and they're the slightest bit potentially hostile or whatever, walk away. Okay? Call the sheriff, let them deal with it. They'll basically just tell everyone they probably got to settle it peacefully or whatever, but it's not worth getting lead poisoning. Okay? There's some crazy ass people out there. There's some crazy ass people selling claims that are completely illegitimate. If you've done your job right, if you're confident that it's yours, etc., just let the legal system do its job. It's not worth getting hurt over. So remember that. Anyhow, let's see. So after we took the sample, well, we went over, checked out that one little set of patches, which, by the way, it was a pretty little ride. So that was kind of cool. And hello,
Hi,
Sarah. So 9 times out of 10, they're lost. That's entirely possible too. They may just be totally confused. They don't know what they're doing, etc. Again, if you start out from the position that it's just an honest disagreement, you can usually work things out peaceably. If it looks like it's going slightest bit sideways, just say, okay, fine, I'll take my shit, I'll go home. Don't worry. And then get it all figured out later. You know, safety is number one. Anyhow, when we finished checking that little side trip area, we came back and there was a couple little dog holes that Eva had found previous weekend when she was out gallivanting around by herself. And so we went up there to sample those. And there's some a yellow soft breccia sort of thing, which today, after crushing it and canning it, at least one of them was pretty high clay. I'm guessing that's decomposed bedrock, maybe feldspars. They will turn into clays. I'm not sure what else it could be. Rock's not here, but it was interesting that in two of the cases they seem to be literally following that yellow breccia structure. So that's interesting. Didn't know why they would be doing that. And so took samples. And then at the other one, there was 2 high iron veins and 1 yellow breccia zone. I didn't bother getting the yellow breccia there because I figured it was no big deal. I haven't seen the other person. And one of the 2 veins seemed to do okay. Have you heard of the gentleman named Roger Spurlock and his theory on Mud Fossil University? If he's the guy I'm thinking, yes, I have. That's the giants and the blood vessels, stuff like that. And if that's who you're talking about, yes, I disagree with him completely. Okay. And
or it could be the guy who believes that the devil's power is
could be, yeah. But no, the detailed chemistry and isotope ratios and all kinds of I saw and isotope ratios indicate with pretty high degree of certainty exactly how most of these ore bodies form.
Yeah, well, we could let him do the or overburden removal and then tell him they're on the wrong side of the.
Well, Sarah, the blood of giants and stuff like that, I have no expertise on. because as far as I can tell, it's a complete.
No. The gentleman about the giants and the mud and the earth. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. To say that to me is it sounds like a fable, and as such, I haven't really studied it very much, but I have studied the actual geology, as in where people take samples of the actual rock, including core samples, thousands of feet long, and they analyze them in great detail, including things like different minerals will crystallize differently depending on the temperatures and pressures to which they're subjected. And you can determine this experimentally quite easily by creating the conditions in a pressure chamber to duplicate what you think may be down there and actually seeing what forms. So this is not something where it's somebody asserts anything. It's where they can actually create conditions, see what happens, compare that to the samples that they're getting, and seeing if it makes sense. The complexity of geology is actually quite tremendous when you get into a detailed level. It's kind of like cars often look a bit the same, but if you get underneath the paint, they can be radically different. And an expert can tell, is that a Volkswagen or is that a um, Porsche, by looking at nuances. It's the same sort of thing in that there's a lot of nuances. And when they take the uh, data that they've gathered over ever and put it all together and compare it and see what happens, then you get theories that can be tested against reality and see whether it makes. So scale won't change that data. Certain things are very scalable, other things are not. For example, how fast an individual crystal grows under certain conditions and what crystal lattice is formed under that temperature and pressure really doesn't change much. Now, what can change it is other chemicals in the present. For example, if you have only iron and only sulfur in solution, and you drop the temperature, you're going to get iron pyrite. However, if you have copper in the solution too, then you're going to tend to get chalcopyrite or a copper iron sulfide. Depending upon the ratios of the two chemicals, the temperatures, and things like that, you get different stuff. Let's see if I outside here. Uh,
I don't.
I think there's one on the
Out
front
on the porch, we've got one. He'll be right back. He's getting a mineral specimen here. We have a mineral specimen. Show and tell. Show and tell is happening. Show and tell is happening. It has all kinds of geology in it.
So, for example, Sarah, when you look at this bladed structure here, they know what causes that. They know that this was formed at typically around 250 degrees centigrade with pressures of a particular amount where the solutions that were forming this were actually boiling. As you can see, that's a very unique texture. And as I say, they know exactly why that forms, and therefore they can say, we know what condition that formed under. And in a nearby area, maybe 50 feet, maybe hundreds of feet, then, is it anyone else? Shh. Little one. Anyone else having audio problems besides Jean-Francois? But anyhow, down there, you're going to tend to get, do we have any just regular crystal? Okay, for example, Sarah, this was from the same area, and you notice it doesn't have any of that bladed look to it or whatever. That's because it was formed under slightly different conditions. And again, we got a guy that's here quite often, goes by the nickname Rock Butcher. He's a professional field exploration geologist. And that's the sort of thing that he's trained how to do, so he can look at different things and say, okay, the temperature gradient when this was formed was hot over here and cooler over there, or the pressure gradient, or whatever. And by using those clues, they can hone in on where the good stuff is. Okay? The global mining industry is many, many, many billions of dollars a year. I don't know how many, but it's a bunch. Now, trust me, these people don't want to spend money that doesn't come back. Gold is extremely soft right now. I don't know. The price is doing pretty good. Yeah, exactly, David. Okay, so you're the one that's coming in kind of iffy. Okay. So the when they're making plans for a big mine, they may easily drill hundreds of thousands of feet of drill hole to get samples of the rock and plot that in 3 dimensions, and then figure out how they could exploit that. They have the samples that shows what's there. They have their logging data and stuff, so they know where it is. And they did it. I mean, back in the 1800s in South Africa, they were plotting stuff 2 miles or more down. You know, I think basically the shallow stuff was almost a mile deep. Believe me, when you're going to drive a shaft, and you need 2, one for intake air, one for exhaust. If you're going to drive shafts a mile deep, you better have a really good idea of what you're going to get down there. Otherwise, you're going to be really, really sad. If you want to get a good idea of how the current state of the knowledge is, there is a set of YouTube videos called Ore Deposits 101. And this gentleman has done a pretty good job of, gosh, I think there are about 10 of the more common methods of ore deposits being formed. And how that happens. And each one of his episodes is about an hour. And this guy, he advises big money people. You know, the kind of people who, you know, you need to invest $1 billion or $2. These are the kind of people he talks to. So anyhow, how is Central America going? Well, that's a good question, Brian. As a matter of fact, I put in a phone call to Jared before the live stream to try and get an update. And he texted Eva back saying he's in meetings and he'll call after the meetings. The 2 basic questions I had are, number 1, how did the fluxing and smelting thingy go? You know, have they got that pretty well under control? there was certain things that he was looking at doing and testing and blah, 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 that I haven't gotten any results back, so I don't know what happened on that. But the other thing, the next stage, if the fluxing and smelting is going good now, then I think we're just going to be doing some fine tuning on the tabling and the retabling and concentration and stuff to make it a bit more efficient. But I think we're pretty well got that under control. However, the next thing to worry about exploiting, oh, and we still haven't gotten the assay results back either. The next thing that we're looking at exploiting is well, I'm not sure what I said the word thingy apparently, but I'm not sure exactly when I used it, so I forgot, but anyhow, the next thing will be exploiting the sulfide concentrate, which have substantial gold in them. And so that's going to require roasting the sulfides. Sweet, Brian. So anyhow, this is a very simplified diagram of what's known as a rotating tube mill. Now, there's some parts that are left out of this for simplicity, like the support rollers, this and that and the other. Essentially, you have an insulated chamber, and you got a tube that goes down the middle of the chamber, and that tube can turn. It would typically be have support rollers at each end. This is a chain drive. You have a sprocket on there. This is a hopper. I've got this one set up so you have like a little auger to feed the material in there. And got burners to heat this. This is insulated here. There's a space between the insulated jacket and the inner tube. And you get that really, really hot. And then as you turn this tube very slowly, and I'm not sure how slowly I need, but I would imagine somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 RPM or less, or maybe a little more or a little less, roughly 1 RPM plus or minus. It's going to suck in through this auger some dried sulfides. Be at a little tilt, so as it turns, they work down that tube and get really, really hot and roast and then pour out the other end. Exactly. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, it's just I'm not making it at this point, Chris. Just throwing around some stuff in my head as to how to make it simple. I mean, when you look up...
Do you want me to put it on that screen early?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, y'all can take a good close look at what he's got here.
But anyhow, when you look on the internet, there's some companies that make these things substantially fancier. Oh, you betcha, Brian. But they've got... I'm not sure how much those things cost. They never have a price on that stuff. You got any idea, Chris, on how much like a 5-inch diameter rotary tube furnace costs? The real nice production ones. It'll go up. I think they were going up to like 3,000 C. You could use it with cream. Probably could. But anyhow, so the ones they had were really, really nice. And I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000. That would be my guess. So if you can smell the sulfur just walking the surface, it's not actually sulfides smell a little bit different than sulfur, but they do have an odor, especially if you um, hit it with a hammer or something and kind of crush it, smack it good. They can um, uh, do a pretty good aroma. Generally, just the finely crushed, the dust can smell. You can definitely smell it, and if it's got arsenic in it, it'll smell kind of like garlic. Could be. Yeah. I know the professional ones are going to be way too expensive. Not sure about the action mining one. Have you heard anything on the action mining one, Chris? You can switch back now. Because I'm not. I know they made one, but yeah, kind of like Sarah, but it. I know Action Mining makes one, but I'm not sure how good it is, how well it works, or whatever. They don't have to necessarily be too big. The other question I was going to ask Jared was if they had come up with a good estimate of how much in the way of sulfide supercons they're going to be generating per day. Okay, thank you, Chris. And the estimate at this point is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 20 pounds is all. So it doesn't have to have a high throughput. I mean, this thing could possibly be something as small as like a piece of 2-inch pipe. Don't know at this point. But it's just one of those things that we've got to define a few parameters before we start designing the equipment to deal with it. But we're guessing, I say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 20 pounds a day. And so that's the sort of situation where first you got to get the numbers, then you got to design the equipment. Well, the problem is, do you have enough OxyClean in the middle of nowhere in one of these third world countries? And let's say, as far as I'm concerned, I know that roasting works great. It breaks it down completely. Um, I don't know about chemical oxidation, how thorough it's going to be, how fast it's going to be, or whatever. So, I say it's first they got to get me some, then I can play with it. Until I get some a sample, I really don't have much to work with. But anyhow, so that's another thing I was going to talk to Jared about was how much do you think you're going to have, and when am I going to get a sample to start playing some games? Yeah, I say I don't know. I was thinking even with a roasting furnace like this, you might be able to add use a what was it, oxygen separators, medical oxygen separator or something to push to increase the oxygen partial pressure in the reaction chamber. I know the big smelters now use 40% oxygen as their oxidizing thing, and that allows them to use the sulfur in the sulfides as a fuel. You know. Well, you could, Sarah, and I could take a look at it or whatever. The way we typically start something like this is you send me an email and I'll reply. Then we'll make some arrangements. You can send it. And as a typical rule, I'll just take a quick look at stuff or whatever, absolutely free. I might be on a, live stream saying this is what it looks like and this is what I think or whatever. But yeah, we do this stuff all the time. Do you have my email address, Sarah? And but that's what's going down there in Central America right now. PSA. Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and send me an email then. We can talk about it in detail. LPM stands for liters per minute, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure what the PSA system. It nitric might work. It'd be extremely expensive compared to alternatives, and so pressure swing absorption. Okay, that's what they call it, huh? And it's very expensive. You create a lot of toxic nitrates, things like that. So it's better to use something inexpensive and readily controllable. The OxyClean I have no opinion on because I've never researched it or tried it. But how long before you get complete oxidation, Brian? If you got, say, 100 mesh minus sulfides, what kind of reaction time are you looking at? Explosive dust? I don't like explosive dust. That can go bad. But I say that there's a variety of ways of dealing with problems, and it all depends on the actual situation. Sometimes there's regulation. Sometimes there's secondary considerations like other uh, chemicals or elements. For example, if you had mercury or arsenic or something, you really wouldn't want to use nitric acid because now you're making soluble nitrates. And those can be really toxic. So, I say these are things you have to consider in terms of what's the best solution. What?
Well, the national security. This week.
Oh, so Trump had to make an emergency exit, and the National Security Council having a.
Yeah, they've all been
Okay.
ordered. Oh, and by the way, it turned out that the Minnesota police were standing there watching while the dude killed the representative.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that bizarre?
That was pretty useless.
And the bunny's got a four-fake donation from a prominent dude who's reading their paper.
Cool. Anyhow,
Good for the bunny.
and it's, as you notice, Honey Bunny's explanation there. Yeah, there's some secondary things that can sometimes crop up depending. That's why you always have to test things and know what you're doing and double check and make sure you haven't forgotten something or something didn't bite you in the butt that you didn't know where it came from. History is replete with incidents where things showed up unexpectedly and people learned interesting lessons very quickly. Like I learned that when filling a plastic bag with oxygen and acetylene mixture, you have to worry about something called static electricity. Hello? Ooh, that's Attorney General. Austin Knudsen?
No, it's Western Media
Yeah,
PBS
that's I think mine too.
robocall, I guess,
Yeah, they're holding some kind of
with a
online thing.
Montana number.
Yeah, say Attorney General Austin. Yeah, it was unexpected. Very loud. I hope he's not calling me. If he's been reduced to calling me, we are all doomed. I'll tell him to call Chris. But yeah, that was I say it's one of those things that's pretty obvious in retrospect when somebody pointed it out to you. When I asked my chemistry teacher what could have gone wrong, he said, "Did you think of static electricity?" Like, oh, that explains it. Yeah, Brian, but again, now you're adding a lot of chemicals that you have to get somewhere else in a third world country as opposed to air. Readily available. Propane, readily available. So, I say there's these sort of things. If you're doing it inside a contained space, small quantities, makes a lot of sense, especially in a first world country like you've got here, where you run down to Walmart and buy this stuff. On the other hand, as say third world country, not so easy. Yeah, import tariffs are a thing down there. Trust me. So,
Oh, and Trump also advised that Iran.
so anyhow, it looks like it's going to be a busy night, folks. Uh,
Yeah, a little bit. Well, what happened in P7 was they wanted to sign watered down,
yeah,
and then said, yeah, no, that big crap.
yeah, yeah. You could use firewood. You can even have some guy turning a hand crank slowly. You know, again, third world countries where human beings cost less than $20 a day, that changes the calculations on what's the best way to make something happen. Take care, Sarah. Glad to see you. So, actually, she was more into bunnies. Although that one she had this morning with they were commando bunnies speaking Japanese, right? That was pretty funny.
Earth Bunny.
Earth Bunny one. Okay. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, you should have seen the whole thing. It came
Yeah,
out.
she's not really trying to speak to anyone here, Jean Francois. If you want to be heard, you're gonna have to speak way
Yeah,
up.
I know.
Okay.
Picking you up.
Yeah, Honey Bunny, it's pretty funny. There's a It all started like about a week ago, and there was a bunny rescue in Britain that made, I guess, just a like on a J.K. Rowling's post. It created a bit of a furor with the trans community, and so it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. I have no idea, Kodak, how efficient it would be. However, again, it's pretty expensive stuff, and you're going to create some pretty toxic chemicals. Probably those nitrates are really good. She's actually farther away from the mic than I am, Jean-Francois. About twice as far. But anyhow, so that's a nitric is fine for laboratory scale stuff, test tube, beaker. But for production stuff, I generally would prefer to go something less, uh, complex, so to speak. Uh, but we shall see what we shall see. Uh, anything else? Yeah, that was kind of my thought, Chris. Is it's going to take a fair amount of nitric. I mean, if we were to try and react, I mean, let's say our 10 pounds per day. Uh, I would guess you're going to need something on the order of 20 to 30 gallons of nitric acid per day. Yeah, electricity might work out well too, Chris. Yeah, put it in a wet electrolytic cell and break it down that way. That's got possibilities. I'm not wedded to anything in particular, just whatever works. Fire is cheap. Yep. So, anyhow, we also are waiting on assays for things like head grade, tailings grade, stuff like that. As of now, I don't know if they've gotten any of those things back. So far, the only 2 head grade samples we have were substantially better grade than were estimated initially. So that's a good thing. Let's hope it stays up there. But I don't know. Anyhow, little one, I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom for a second. Could you cover? You want to get that Surf Bunny one?
Oh, I'd have to find it.
That would be hilarious, though.
Well, it's in 4 parts.
Yeah.
The thing I found most interesting about it was that it was done by an absolute amateur.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to wet scrub. Yep. But that's not too hard to do.
Well, go to the bathroom real quick. Lord.
That was
It actually was pretty funny, but what I found most interesting about it, well, for some background here, the furor about the bunny rescues continues over in Britain, Wales, and I believe it's one of the former Soviet bloc countries. The trans mafia is going after bunny rescue charities, which is bizarre, but they are bizarre people, let's face it. So, an absolute amateur, hi, Mr. Virtue, an absolute amateur used an AI animation program to make 4 little short videos called Turf Bunny 1. It was based on a Japanese video game or a Japanese TV show. And it was bunnies, and the trans villains were camels, which was really funny. But anyway, a lot's going on with AI these days. Believe it or not, there are people that actually trust this shit. I have no idea why. I really don't, Kodak really weird crap's going on in Minnesota these days, like that shooting y'all had. There are very, very few sane people in general. We're at a point in our mass psychosis where things are getting totally and truly bizarre here. And yeah, I didn't think you guys had gold over in Minnesota. You really need to come to Montana. We have gold. I wish we went out and had more of it. It would be nice to run into more of it. It would be nice to run into some of it on claims that belong to us. Oh well. Until then, we'll just have to buy it. He's coming back. Yeah, there is.
Yep. Anyhow, so that's kind of the situation.
Oh, and you know how he had a manifesto yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, apparently he
It's
doesn't
just
have a
notebooks now.
manifesto.
Yes. Nope. No.
Kind of weird.
So that's where we're kind of at with the Central America project. I'm kind of up in the air. I don't have any good solid data, but I think we're making good progress.
Federal judge is bad.
So, anybody got any questions or anything at this point? Oh. Oh. Right now, that's the least of my problems, Kodak. But I must admit, for a guy who had a heart attack a couple months ago, I'm doing pretty good. I'm able to keep up a nice steady pace, moving rock and stuff. I don't have near the aerobic capacity I had several years ago, but I'm not sure how much I've lost since say spring. You know, it's just doing okay.
Oh my word! There's a shooting in Utah.
Wasn't that the one at the rally?
No, dude shot 5 people at a West Valley Carnival, West Fest.
Well, that's not good.
One of them was an 8-month-old baby.
That's entirely unacceptable.
They've got him in custody. Days.
Well, that doesn't sound like fun, honey bunny. Unless they like give you laughing gas or something. You know, I suppose if they give you the whole canister, it could be a fun day. But little take home. But yeah, health wise, I seem to be doing okay. Oh, and it was kind of funny because they had all these protests last Saturday, and so it turns out that one of those protests was right out in front of the store that my daughter in North Carolina works at. Now, she wasn't there that day. It's a Kinko, you know, but she talked to the people that were working there on Saturday, and they said, first of all, it was very, very busy, but also they sold out of markers and poster paper, poster board paper. Like, well, apparently somebody didn't plan ahead properly. But they didn't have any problems over there, you know? And so let's say that worked out okay.
Oh, and just so you know, no, the United States government is not planning to sell off the national parks, monuments, wilderness areas, or recreation areas, or 11 other categories.
Oh, darn it. I wanted my own national park. Oh, wait a minute. I couldn't afford it anymore.
Darn it, I wanted to be able to buy some good mining land.
Oh, well.
That's
So close and yet so far. Just a few $1 billion. But anyhow, so that's basically our situation. Next week, again, I'll have to get some feedback on Central America, but we may go up into the general area of top of the hill. Because so far we're coming up pretty much craps on the stuff around Montana B. The only spot that really did well was that dog hole 2, and it's a pain in the butt to get to. So, and we won't have any assays of anything, any samples we took this week until, weekend after next. So, doesn't seem to make any sense. And so I was thinking there's some stuff we can do at top of the hill. I also need to talk to the Forest Service dude. He said he's been real busy. He sent me an email. Said he's been real busy and call him at his office number and set up a time to come in and discuss the details because it looked a little complicated. And so I left a message last Wednesday, I think, and he has yet to call me back. So again, I think this guy is like thoroughly buried because of the price of the precious metals. And so there's a lot of interest. And so I don't know. But even without his approval, there's some things we can do over there and get in at least one day of progress. There's some areas we haven't done a real thorough job looking at that we could. But we also need to try and get permission to cross some private land. If we can, then there's some areas that are very, very difficult to access without crossing that private land that we could maybe get some sound. So why do you not do your own assay? Simple, muscle up. To do a good assay, you need a good lab. I don't have a place to put one, which has a fair amount of equipment I don't have.
And a good furnace, which we don't have.
Exactly.
Working.
Mistake. And then experience too, especially fire assay. To do good fire assay, you need to have a fair amount of experience. Now, if like Eva could get a job working with a mining company in their lab for a year or something, I'm sure she'd be pretty darn good at it.
It should be known that when I had a good, well, at least relatively good working functional furnace, I was doing ballpark assay, meaning I would fire 8 or 10 or 12 samples, come up with the bead, combine them, and take an average. I can get a good ballpark. I cannot get a precision assay. Well, because I don't have the equipment.
You can't get a good ballpark with our equipment, okay, for anything except very high grade something. I mean, you were doing concentrates.
Yeah. I mean, it's simply a lack of equipment,
Now, we can do a sort of an assay here where we take and do a bottle roll with the Eco Goldex and then take it to the local lab, and for $25 they can analyze the solution and tell us how much gold is in it. And so in some cases that can be better, or it can be supplemental to a fire assay. For example, the last batch of samples we got, there was some we had some fire assays done on a couple of samples, and then I made a composite and did a bottle roll on that, because it tells you a couple things. First of all, do the two match? You know, if your fire assay and the bottle roll come out pretty close, you can say, okay, I've got confidence in both of them. On the other hand, if the bottle roll comes up with a lot more than the fire assay, you got a problem because that should not happen. If it's coming up with less than the fire assay, that can mean a lot of things metallurgically in terms of, okay, the gold is bound up in sulfides, crystal locked in some other way. There's some chemical uh, interference with the Eco Gold X, but it tells you like, yeah, this might be hard to leach, that sort of thing. And so you can use the two different ones. A bottle roll uses a 500-gram sample, whereas the fire assay uses a 30-gram sample. So statistically, you've got a lot more material in the bottle roll. So they do different things in different ways and give you different types of information, but they should essentially agree, so you can use them as a cross check to a certain extent also. And everything cross checked, and they both said crap. So that's what I said, which is a bummer because it would have been cool, you know. Well, that's kind of where we are. Eventually, we might get a assay lab running around, especially if we get integrated small mining solutions up and running and such. Then we might wind up as part of the services we supply would be assay services also. We do our own in-house assaying for ourselves. You got all the equipment, you got all the people, you might as well do it for rent too, you know. We do have someone a couple hours away in Coeur d'Alene, Chris Christopherson, who teaches assaying. And that might be something we wind up taking advantage of sometime in the near future. I don't know. Okay, honey bunny. Um, yeah, that's another problem without having the ability to drill stuff. I mean, that N5 shaft there, I'd love to. There's a kind of a drill called a cantera, or at least there used to be. Basically, it's an articulated four-wheel drive, big balloon tire drill. They have 5-foot drill steels, and they can literally just kind of drive up on the side of a hill and, you know, drill a 6-inch reverse circulation hole. I'd love to have one of those punched through that ridge, roughly perpendicular to the strata. That would be kind of cool. Unfortunately, ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Um, that's what's going on, and so still looking for something exciting. Still looking for Jeff Kablock to show up. Don't know why I haven't heard anything, but he should be showing up.
Moving can be really
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities, but I mean, he theoretically should be showing up like any time now, and then he's got a number of things to check out over about 35 miles that way. So, I just don't know. Yeah, I used to use an air track drill, and I could drill 100-foot holes pretty easily. Um, and yeah, I did a lot of exploration drilling out at ChemGold. I was doing basically the fill-in holes.
good.
Um, we started at the old Glory hole. I was drilling out from there, and they were using that to as the exploration drilling. Um, and it worked okay. It didn't work worth a darn if you hit water. When you're blowing your cuttings back with air, hit much water, bad deal. A little bit of water, a little bit, not bad, as long as you don't stop for very long. But that is one of those deals where, yeah, that's just the limitations. The main thing was it was really cheap. I could get about 400 foot of drill hole in a shift. It'd take me about 2 hours to go 100 feet. Typically, and I'd pull out and move over. And so it worked pretty good. Nowadays, when they got those combined units, or that everything's on a single carriage, and they typically are capable of drilling bigger holes, I would think you'd be able to do even more with it. But I don't know. I didn't have that option. I was pulling a compressor behind me. So, but that it works. Uh, Lauren's out getting stuff out there, exploration going ready, running back and forth. And so there's stuff to do. We could theoretically go back into Montana B and clean up that 40-foot level, but the old generator took a dump, so we'd have to buy a new generator for that. We're just trying to avoid that until we find a good spot. Say, aha, we want to exploit this. We'll see what happens. Anyhow, that's what's happening. Aside from that, I'm doing good. By the way, you were going to call your doctor. Yep.
I'll get around.
No, get in. Hey, Lito, how's it going? So that's about it. They don't have a whole lot to report on Central America. Nothing good to report so far on Montana Bee Ridge. They haven't done anything on uh, top of the hill yet this year. Okay, Brian, lay it on us. Been a while since Lito has shown up. And Brian says it's a geologic question. Don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but I'll give it a shot. Well, that's not good, honey bunny. Oh, if your tooth is hurting, it can be a problem. What is the very red clay looking stuff between my country rocks in the cracks? Well, it could very easily be red clay. Certain minerals chemically decompose into clay. You can also possibly have something called fault gouge. If you're talking a large continuous crack, then as the rock shifts, it can grind up the interface and turning it, into a powder. If it's in the cracks and they move in all different places, not a single plane, then it would probably be a sign of weathering of some of the minerals. And so you'd have to take a look as to what kind of situation when you say a crack. Is this a big plane where rocks can move against each other? Or is this just cracks in the rock that go every which way? If it's a big plane, it's probably fault gouge. So I hope that answers your question. For a more detailed answer on weathering into clays, you'd have to get Rock or Google to answer the question. I just know it can happen. Feldspars especially turn into clays. Can't hurt to try, Brian. Yep. Quite often, if you crush the rock but don't pulverize it and then screen it, if the iron is what's carrying the gold, that can upgrade it substantially. So it's worth a try. It's easy enough to do. My basic philosophy is if I don't know and it's easy to just test, I don't worry too much about theory. I just worry about practice.
Two very good questions. Great mystery.
What?
Why did people used to display fake plastic on coffee? And why did the plastic always feel slightly sticky?
I do not know.
Nobody does. Seems to be one of those deep mysteries of life. We're now all contemplating time and
Yeah, that could work, honey bunny. Anyhow, any other questions running around while we're sitting here contemplating our navel? Some of you, no doubt, a beer. Yeah, it could easily get some iron mobilized by rainwater. Certainly could. She was just mumbling stuff anyhow, Jean-Francois. She was talking about two great mysteries of life. One is, why did people used to put plastic fruit on the table? And B, why was it always slightly sticky? You know? I agree, muscle up sounds like hematite to me, too. Oh. Photos sent to email. Okay, little one. See if you check up some. He was going to try and find them here. Any problem showing them to everybody, Lito?
well, honey bunny, I never pondered those mysteries either until it came up in a discussion about what was in your typical 1970s living room.
Because some countries are bilingual, Jean-Francois. That's why. Okay, so she's looking at these things here.
Well, they haven't loaded yet.
They're taking their own sweet time loading.
Yeah, they're not loading.
Yeah, they're not loading for whatever reason, Lito.
There
we go. Big sunflower.
Chicken.
Those little barred rocks? Yeah, those are barred rocks.
Yeah, look like barred rocks. Nice green beans.
Wow, those are some big green beans. Yeah.
Carrot, pickle, like
Man,
French green beans.
Those are gigantic ones.
Those are those big long ones.
Yep. Looks like the garden's working good this year.
Yeah, nice.
Clay is microscopic feldspar, huh? Oh, okay. I didn't know they were chemically essentially identical. Asian cucumbers, huh?
Yeah.
That's those white things? Chinese long beans. Well, they are definitely long beans, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
You want to put them on the...
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. She's working on it. I guess she's got to load them in the computer and then show them like that. She's working on it. She's
I'm
working
working
on
on it, people. Talk about something else.
We can't. Nothing to talk
Damn
about.
it.
We've done talk,
Oh, well.
so we're exhausted.
Damn it. No.
Those look like barred rocks. A buff Orpington would be a kind of a red color, right?
Yeah. Well, there are several different types of pork. But those are some good looking chicken. Nice chicken.
They're tasty looking chickens, I'll tell you.
Well, yeah, they do look like dinner. I'm not going to argue with you on it. They look.
Dinner on the hoof. They had a bunch of cows out there this week, too. Boy, those calves are stupid.
Gotta love the way cows walk.
Those must be the Chinese long beans.
Yep. Good looking.
How do they taste?
Oh, they taste good.
Never had it.
Yeah.
Okay. Color me shocked.
Very, very tasty.
Oh.
And then we got some nice produce right there. Picture of all the yummy stuff.
He's trying to comment.
I know. Yeah.
Yep. Says they beans taste great stir fried.
Yeah, they do.
And why are they not here?
They also taste good. Any other pickle. And there's a beautiful sunflower.
So,
which we could use a bunch of those in about a month for Dylan's wedding.
now what's the dealio with your flock there, Chris? Do you actually feed them, or are they just kind of feral or semi-feral or whatever? No, Mr. Virtue, that's from Lito's garden. Can't freeze eggplant, huh? My mom used to make a really nice eggplant and Parmesan casserole.
There is one recipe I know of that you can for eggplant. It's a puttanesca sauce. It's got eggplant. But other than that, you can't can eggplant either.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Oh, my mom used to, you'd cube it, and then I think she'd parboil it first.
Yeah.
Baba ganoush?
Ah.
What is baba ganoush? No idea what a baba ganoush is. Is it a cookie?
Yeah, eggplant with pork is good. I'll say that. Well, it depends on who you talk to, Chris. If you believe the people at the agricultural extension, the one down there in Georgia that lays down the law for home canning, you can only can eggplant in exactly one recipe. I don't necessarily trust them, but
Eggplant dip, something like hummus. I don't know. Oh, anyhow. So, glad to hear from you again, Lito. Hope everything else is going good. Huh.
hmm.
Apparently, there are um, Reddit groups and stuff that have uh, canning Gestapo.
Yeah, pretty much. The canning group on Reddit is very well focused on scientific canning, and if it doesn't come straight out of the National Canning and Home Foods Preservation at Clemson down there in Georgia, it doesn't exist.
It
Or
will
Ball,
it will it will kill you instantly.
Oh yeah, I know, Chris. I mean, let me put it this way: they would burn me at the stake because we do a lot of rebel canning in this house, but I do know the rules. You know,
I don't know.
my grandmother's problem with canning eggplant was the texture. You know,
Anywho, what are nightshades? It's a kind of plant. I mean, tomatoes are
tomatoes,
nightshades.
potatoes, deadly nightshade, which is poison, eggplant. They're all in the same family. If you look at a tomato plant and you look at the shape of the flower, those are nightshades.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, honey bunny.
Oh, same here, honey bunny. I'm definitely a rebel canner in a lot of ways, but I will say, quite frankly, to me, no matter what you do to an eggplant, my grandmother was the same way. The texture is just not the same thing. Yeah, Clemson is one of them, and there's a place in Georgia that handles all the canning crap. It's ridiculous. They think they're all well, recently they upset everybody because they decided that all of a sudden, out of the blue, they decided that dandelion jellies and related floral jellies are no longer considered safe. Therefore, if you want to make them, they all have to be refrigerated. It's quite bizarre.
There's
The
a,
National Center for Home Canning and Preservation, or something along those lines.
what are you guys seeing on your video feed right now? I don't see me. I don't.
Good point. There we go.
Okay.
You're back. Yeah, it's amazing, honey bunny. And Ball just updated their canning book again and took out a couple of recipes.
Well, there's a lot of flexibility in food preparation if you know a few rules, but people don't know the important principles. They just know the recipes basically. And yeah, it's just it's like, well, just cook it better. Oh, there's a lot of that going around, honey bunny. Uh, anyhow, uh, anything else? Anybody Yeah, pretty much me too, honey bunny. Usually it works, sometimes not so well. Occasionally I land up on the side with a quad. You know, what the fuck. Oh.
Oh, Mike Flynn is at it again.
Yeah, do as much settling as you can, John. Filtering is harder than settling, but whatever. You steal. Here, China is trying to take over Russia. You mean they're trying to take over Russia? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of land. Well, if I flipped the table, Eva would be annoyed. Yeah, that would be a good idea, Chris. What? Who? Where?
Oh, apparently, if we don't share bathrooms, we dress it.
Oh, well, they can.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. You will do what you are told, and you will like it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. So anyhow, I'll let Chris explain it, John. Well, it might have been Honey Bunny, but you know, statute of limitations and all that. Anyhow, anything else, anybody?
Not much going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, filtering pain in the ass. Never been there, Mr. Virtue. Never been off of North America. Pictures of okra have been sent, supposedly. Take care, Jean Francois. Gagarin, Russia. Named after Yuri, I presume. Uh,
Hmm. Pretty rough.
ooh. You getting pretty clear filtrate fairly easily now, Brian? Take care, Jean Francois. See you next week. Yep, first astronaut, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Well, if nobody else has got something, I think we might want to call it a night. This geezer gets tired. And I can only pick and shovel for 6 hours or so before getting tired nowadays. Pitiful. Just pitiful, I tell you.
Wow. From old.
Cool, Brian. Okay. Go ahead and post, honey bunny. Oops.
Thanks,
Okay, well,
Guido. We will show them next week.
We'll check them out here in a minute. Oh.
And good night, everybody.
Thank you, John. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. I had to wait for it to show up.